All right, sir.
Okay.
How we looking?
We're good.
Jorge gave me an excellent background on you, more than I didn't know you marched with Martin Luther King.
Yeah.
And sat in jail with Martin Luther King.
Yeah.
What? Let me ask you a dumb question.
You want to see a picture of me and Martin Luther King?
I would like to have it for the video. Yeah, actually. Yeah, absolutely.
Here's when I was 21 years. There I am, and there's Martin Luther King.
This is Paul. This is Can you see that, Miriam?
Bring it a little closer.
That's
Okay, that's
Paul there, and then Martin Luther King. Yeah. That's Paul and Martin Luther King. Okay, you can pause it.
I mean, I can send you an email, clearer picture if you want that.
Yeah, we got it close up. Who is the gentleman here? He looks familiar.
I forgot him. But,
He looks really familiar. I don't know. This is legendary.
Yeah, if you could send us an email.
Yeah, that would be great.
I'll do it.
Yeah, definitely. Hey, how has that shaped your worldview? This experience.
I mean,
that's a dumb question, but
no, it is.
With you, always get an
It has
interesting answer.
directed my path in almost everything I've done in terms of public participation, civic participation, political activity, social justice, environmental justice. The civil rights movement shaped my generation, but it really shaped my life directly. I remember when Emmett Till was killed, and I used to sell Jet magazines, and I remember that famous cover.
For those of you who know, Jet's a black magazine that was actually published primarily in Chicago at first,
yeah,
right? Yeah.
Johnson published it.
Where
The same
you
guy
are.
that publishes Ebony, and they used to have another magazine called Tan,
Yeah.
and Bronze Thrills,
Whatever happened
and
to that
Sepia.
one?
Those were the
Yeah,
magazines
right.
they had. And I used to sell those magazines as a kid, as a young teenager. But anyway, I got involved in the civil rights movement when I was at the Post, 1965. My first real journalistic assignment when I graduated from college. I went as a reporter for KDIA and the Post. I wound up not only covering the march, but I got designated as an usher, so I got a chance to physically walk beside Dr. King every day for the 7 days of the march. I had over 3 hours of exclusive one-on-one tapes with Martin Luther King, and we had a chance to talk in a way that most journalists never get a chance to talk to.
What was he like as a person?
Unbelievably smart. When he found out who my pastor was, he opened up and we started discussing theology and religion. And while we were actually walking, I remember various people would come up, "Doc, what are y'all talking about? We're supposed to be doing this, this, and this." Well, Hosea Williams, the late Hosea Williams, who started Four Seasons, was a classmate of Martin Luther King at Boston University, and he was my pastor. In fact, Dr. Williams helped Martin do his studies because he was like 2 years ahead of him. And so when Martin found out that that was my pastor, you know, we really we connected at a level that, you know, and so that has shaped me, and everything that I've done, I can trace back to the events of Selma and the Mississippi and Alabama and all those 11 southern states.
What would Dr. King say about, well, the debate starts, the second debate tonight, but Senator Obama and his ascent and being, you know, all we experienced in Invesco, and what would Dr. King say about Barack Obama?
He would be proud, and he would say this is the culmination of 40 years of the March on Washington, that he would say that we should take special interest, those of us who, his famous Memphis speech, he would recall, I may not get there in the promised land. I may not actually see it, but I've been to the mountaintop and I've seen. And so Obama is part of the vision that he saw coming over the horizon. I think he would explain it that way. And in his famous book, Strides Toward Freedom, he would say, this is the giant stride toward freedom. We haven't gotten there because he was killed as he was anticipating the Poor People's March.
Do you remember where you were when that happened? Of course
Do I
you do,
remember?
man.
I was here.
Yeah.
I do remember that. It was anyway. He would be saying he hoped he would probably go to the White House, sit down with Barack, and say, "Look, 40 years ago, Dr. Abernathy and I wanted to have the Poor People's Campaign because we wanted to end poverty in this generation. I want to know, are you dedicated, and will you work together with all of the civil rights groups and all the faith-based and political forces in this country to work to end poverty?" That was a very explosive statement because some people call that income redistribution. Some people call it rearranging the wealth formula.
Which is kind of what we need right now, isn't it?
And Martin Luther King called it ending poverty. So no one can really be against ending poverty. And that's the beauty of Martin Luther King. He had ability to take complicated issues and use semi-biblical rhetoric to transform it and present issues in such a way that you had to say yes to it, even though it meant as J. Alfred Smith said, it dealt with the nasty now and now, but he said it with a soft edge.
I'm compelled to ask this question because I can't get away without it. Do you feel that we have forgotten as a group, and now that I'm in my 40s, I feel that there's a sort of a lost sense of where we are as a people? And I don't mean, when I say that, the positives are what we're talking about with Senator Obama. The ability to, I've always felt, but because of my youthful arrogance, that I can go anywhere. It didn't matter if I was 6 years old, 16, or now. That's me as an individual. But what I found in growing up is that everyone used to say that I talked white. And then somewhere in the middle of the 1990s, that stopped. That stopped because there were more people like me. But I feel like there's a lost sense of you can lead and you can do. Mm-hmm. Am I wrong about that?
Yes. No, you're not wrong. Okay. I agree with you. I think in some ways, comparatively, in relative terms, I should say, we are actually worse off than we were 40 years ago.
Why?
Because 40 years ago, the presence of the forces against us were so overwhelming that it forced a sense of unity, racial pride, and a search for dignity, unity, and education to advance. Now, there's this false chimera that there have been advances. We see Tiger Woods. Mm-hmm. We see Barack Obama. Right. And we say, we have arrived. Right. But in fact, there are actually, percentage-wise, more poor people in the black community than there were 40 years ago in terms of the...
You mentioned racial, and I didn't interrupt you, but I have to... I always felt that I could take myself as a person, as an African American. It didn't matter if I was the only African American in Japan, which I was when I was 18 years old. But I always knew who I was. But it was never at exclusion of somebody else. But I always felt that I knew who I was, and it gave me a power to, to go where I needed to go. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I've always maintained that. But I feel that as much as I've tried to impart that, I'm only one person. I don't feel that we're there anymore. We have the Joe Howards out there saying, who's the basketball player, saying, well, basically the implication is because I'm black, I don't need to be educated, I don't need to be involved in politics. Mm-hmm. I wanted to slap the guy. What the heck is going on? What have we lost, and what can we get it? How can we get it back? Well, or do I need to take a guy like that who's much bigger than I am and grab him by the scruff of the neck, like Thomas Berkeley used to do me, like Dr. Berkeley would do? Zing! Young man, I can show you a lot. You know what I'm talking about. Thomas Berkeley was the publisher of the Post before Paul. You know what I'm talking about. But I don't mean to dominate, but you got me. My juices.
No, I agree. I agree with you. I think you should dominate. In fact, I think you, who are very articulate in the sense that you can talk. I don't want to use the term white. I'll use a term my father used to use. You can talk or communicate as good as you want to, and sometimes better than you should.
Right.
And since that is good, you should use your God-given talent to be able to talk bilingually to the general mass audience, because you understand language and inflection and ability to make your concept sound acceptable, as well as you can talk to black people. You have to be a medium to stir us to action and to force us to be reflective.
Like Chauncey was.
Yes.
Which I thought did it better than anybody else.
That's right.
Yeah, except you.
And so
honest, but, you know.
why don't you and I and others do that? Why don't we recommit ourselves? Because look, you've proven, being a blogger par excellence,
right.
You've proven that one man can make a difference. A single voice can, quote, prick consciousness. A single voice can awaken, stir to action, or cause others to talk about the same topic. Am I correct?
Yes. Yes, you are.
So, if you can do that, why don't you proliferate that, and why don't you challenge all the other bloggers, black or white, to start a dialogue with America, with ourselves, intra-black community as well as externally, about this very subject?
Right. Right. I will do that.
I mean, that's something
I
that
said
you
on
can
camera. I will
do.
take that pledge. You got it.
That
I will
is
do
something
I will
that
do
you can do.
Yeah.
It doesn't cost any money.
No.
And you're smart enough to know how to provoke others to respond.
Yes.
And you know, blogging is like, once you get it started, everybody, once the ripple effect of what you say goes out across the waves, others will react. Right. It gets on other bloggers. So the whole blogosphere is responding to a certain ripple.
Right.
So I'm asking you.
And there are good African American, Oliver Willis. I read him every day.
Yeah.
I mean, there are enough of us to.
So
to
why
make
don't
that
you
difference.
challenge the black bloggers?
I will do that.
I'll be happy
do
to
that.
print
Okay,
the
you got it.
update. I'll turn that
Okay.
into some help focus people. I'll put it on our website too, so we can start engaging people and forcing people to debate our reason to be and why we aren't as active. Why do you know that the Harlem Renaissance got started with 3 or 4 people? And there was Arna Bontemps, there was Langston,
Right.
and others who got together and said, we are going to chart a new course and attract others. And when the word got around, black writers and artists and musicians and others from all over the world came to Harlem to be a part of this renaissance. You get my point?
Absolutely. And Paul, I will
And
do
it
that.
started they started a dialogue back and forth with Paris, with the Negritude movement,
That's right.
with Amy Césaire and others. One person can make a difference. And it's daring. There's a biblical expression. In fact, Martin and I talked about that song. It goes, dare to be like Daniel. You know Daniel, the story in the Bible,
Yeah.
Daniel in the lion's den. Dare to stand alone. Dare to make your purpose true, and dare to make it known. So if you dare to stand alone with a purpose to get us to dig within and hold the mirror up to ourselves to say, where are we? Why aren't we progressing? What do we want? It will cause someone to react. Others will join in, and others will add to it and say, well, you could have said it this way. If you said it a little differently, we'll attract even more people, and we can start something. That's how a movement starts.
And I will do that.
Martin Luther King became known at that point in history not because of who he was. It was because Rosa Parks and the black churches in Montgomery, Alabama, decided that they would no longer suffer the indignities. They then said, Martin, you're young, you're 26, you can afford to take the risk, and you can even talk away.
Okay. And also,
Do you get my point?
And I also want to take this time to extend the Oakland Post an invitation to come to our blog and enrich ours. So we can talk about it all.
I want to do that. We are to be linked to each other. You
Absolutely.
come out of Oakland. The Post is from Oakland. In the spirit of Russ Worm and Chauncey Bailey, we ought to keep the spirit of communication alive.
Tell us, where are we, particularly for those CNN journalists who are really interested in this, and journalists in general, where are we with finding the people who killed Chauncey? Because you and I talked about that on the plane. We talked about that, and you had some really, you had some things to say I want people to hear, and this gets out to a wide audience.
Well, I think that it's some of the latest revelations in the media is that Chauncey was on to a lot of things, and he was investigating several major issues. He was investigating the police and some of the issues that have come out. Have you seen what's been in the Tribune lately?
I have not, so I don't want to say I have.
Okay, in the last week or so, there's been an announced investigation of another. You remember the Riders case?
Right, I remember that one.
There's another version of a similar type Riders case
I saw
where
that. Okay.
improper search and seizure and activity. Chauncey was on to that. And Chauncey was also looking into the...
Well, Paul, are you saying the police had something to do
No,
with this?
I'm not saying that.
Okay, all right.
But I think that the police had infiltrated the bakery.
Yes. Your black Muslim bakery. All right.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, you can put two and two together after that.
Oh my goodness.
I think that Chauncey Bailey...
Keep talking.
That's all right.
Talk through that. Just talk about it. Okay.
Chauncey Bailey was investigating Jerry Brown because Jerry Brown destroyed his files when he left.
Is that right?
And those files belong to the public.
Our Attorney General, State Attorney General of California, Jerry
destroyed
Brown.
his files.
Why?
Why do people destroy files?
Has anyone asked Jerry why?
Yes, we did. Chauncey was asking him on a regular basis. And these are the kinds of stories that Chauncey was working on. Chauncey also...
What was Jerry's answer?
No answer. Be interesting. He wants to be governor. He's the Attorney General. Attorney General stands
Hey, Jerry,
for...
you have some splaining to do.
Attorney Generals are those who uphold the law, and they're the guardians of the law. And they're supposed to be examples for law enforcement and respect for the people's property. And Jerry Brown sprang into the mayoralty with an organization called We the People, which comes from our so-called founding documents of this country. If he's a guardian of We the People, those papers from his office belong to whom? We the people.
That's right.
And he destroyed them. So if he's destroying the people's documents, and as there's the biblical expression, if you can't be faithful over a few things, why should you be made ruler over many things? As governor again, if he has no respect for the people's documents, hello, that's what Chauncey was investigating. Chauncey was absolutely fearless. He was not afraid of anyone, anybody who came along with any issue of wrongdoing or social justice problem or a civil rights issue or discriminatory revelation or whistleblower. Chauncey would delve into it. He would not, as Jesse Jackson says, Chauncey was the epitome of being unafraid to call the wicked man wicked to the wicked man's face. What's wrong?
That's true. That's very true.
And
That's very true.
why he was killed. And I
still can't believe it.
Okay, well, I mean,
it's, you know.
We used to sit. He used to sit right where you're sitting now, and we would talk over stories we're going to do. And I remember a week before he got killed, he came in, sat right there, and said he had a very disturbing conversation with a police officer who was upset that Chauncey was asking questions about him. And he said, you know, I think someone's putting pressure on me. What do you think? I said, let's roll with it. And a week later, he was killed. So I think that his death and his activism and his bravery in journalism should inspire all of us who are in media.
Absolutely.
To continue.
Where the Chauncey Bailey project, how's that coming on?
That's gradually revealing a lot of things. It's still got a lot more to go, and there are a lot more things that are coming out that's going to shake up people. This police investigation going on now is a direct result of the momentum of the Chauncey Bailey project.
If people want to get involved, they just go to chaunceybaileyproject.com?
Yeah.
That's fine. Tell me about the mayor in Oakland. I asked Alejandro what he thought, or I said, has Oakland changed? Is it better? Same question to you over your time here. And then...
Yeah, Oakland has changed. It's better, but the media is acting more in concert against Dellums because of Dellums' style. And yeah, I think a lot of it is stylistic. Mm-hmm. Because look at the numbers. They're given all this killing. There are actually fewer killings than under Jerry Brown.
That's true, right.
In terms of actual numbers.
Right.
But that's not a good way to measure progress. Because I think if one person is killed,
it's one too many.
It's one too many.
Right.
But the media is reacting differently to Ron than they did to Jerry.
Why?
What do you think?
I think because Jerry had a tendency to wreak an aura of...
He was more
history.
affable. He was friendlier. He
had history. He had this coolness about him that the media seemed to...
Yeah, and he used to
suck
literally
like,
walk over to the Tribune
mm-hmm.
and go in there and just walk around the newsroom and talk to people. He would call them up. Ron is not that way.
He coddled the media. That's right.
So Ron, the media interprets his...
Except me. He hasn't coddled me.
Who?
Me. The Jerry.
Well, the media...
Jerry knows how I feel about him.
That's a good point. Jerry, the media interprets Ron's reticence as arrogance. You know, because most people kowtow to the media and run to them and worship and genuflect, lip gloss their way to the media. Ron is like, hey, I'm 70.
Wait, they haven't done that for me yet, Paul.
Well, you're not an elected official.
Okay.
So Ron says, look, I've been there, done that. My job, I didn't see my job as trying to get a halo or a glory trip out of this. I want to try to do some things and involve some people. If you don't like that, fine. And the media is like, what? You're not bowing down to us? And so Ron said, hey, what are you going to do to me? I'm 72. Hey, I've been there, done that.
He's a legend.
I don't need any more trophies or any more clippings or any more headlines. You know? Yeah. And I just want to try to create some access.
But is he doing...
He's not doing as much as I would like for him to do.
Because you were the first people to go out and get him.
Yeah. There are a group of us.
Good pause on that.
So far, the worst mayor Oakland's had, it's sort of
Who's
I'd
that
say
guy?
Jerry Brown.
Okay.
Even though I supported Jerry.
Mm-hmm. You did, yeah.
And
With
I
both
was,
feet,
in fact, I was the first person
Yeah.
in Oakland to endorse Jerry Brown.
Now you feel like you made a mistake.
Oh, yeah. And, yeah, Cherry Brown, he didn't really care about the schools or any of the issues. He used the misery index to launch his mayoralty, and he used Oakland as a platform and a springboard to get back into statewide politics.
I'm going to ask a question as we move toward a close. Why do I get the feeling that there's still, like for example, yes, I'm a blogger, yes, I'm black, but I am the only black Oakland blogger I know of. Everybody else is white. And they talk to themselves, and I'm saying this so that you guys can hear it. They talk among themselves. They don't talk much to me at all. You know, there's two messages out there. Why do I get the feeling there's still two cultures, and
It's,
you know?
This is America. This
No,
is the way it's always been.
Because it changes.
It is racism, as Rap Brown used to say, is as routine as apple pie in all levels. Whether let me explain something to you. If blacks at Lehman Brothers, if the Lehman Brothers leaders and CEO and so forth, who wrote themselves $20 million golden parachute checks, had been black, would they be in San Quentin by now?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
So, has racism and the double standard changed?
No, but I wanted to. I mean,
Do you think Barack Obama is getting a fair shot?
No, not at all.
Even though he's leading in the polls right now,
not at all.
you and I both know that by the grace of God.
But racism is a mental illness, Paul. The American Psychiatric Association was 5 votes from officially declaring racism a mental illness. And so it bothers me when people behave that way. When people do, I tell them to their face, you're being mentally ill. It's a paranoid delusion.
You want to know why the white bloggers put you on a separate side?
Well, it's more. It's like, remember when, you don't remember, Forum had us all, and myself, Chip Johnson, right? A couple of people, including the East Bay Express, Chris Thompson, they mentioned them, but they didn't mention me as being on the forum and what I had to say. And I thought, that's interesting. You know, it's like they're trying to act as if I don't exist. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to give them more of me so they can't ignore me.
You need to read the preface to James Baldwin's book, The Fire Next Time. He writes a letter to his nephew where he says, be clear about the storm that rages about your youthful head. You function in this world, in the white man's world, like a fixed star or an immovable pillar. And once you begin to move, you change their concept of the universe and they redefine it. They have you in your place. You are a black blogger. Whether you are better than them is irrelevant. You are not a part of their universe.
So therefore I have to create my own.
You got to create your own.
Thanks for your time, Paul.
Thank you.
Okay.
But we ought to, if you're serious.
No, I'm very serious about it.
If you're serious about the divide of, or the lack of fervor for identity and motivation for those that are African American to advance the positive use of pride and dignity as motivation, we ought to have that dialogue. And bloggers who are articulate and who are brave and who are courageous, such as yourself, ought to be challenging us and ought to be figuring out ways that we can form a joint venture. Your blog ought to be featured and highlighted on a regular basis in the Post. We should be used to drive traffic to you and vice versa.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We should be used to spur other newspapers and other media to take your challenge or to engage your latest rhetorical line.
And to that end, I actually have a technical plan, which I can't go into here because this involves coding and stuff that I'm going to share with you later.
I would like for you, I'm going to say this on camera.
Sure, yeah.
I would like for you to teach me to blog. And
Done.
I would like to be
Give me our featured blogger.
a blogging buddy.
Done.
With you so we
Done.
can link back and forth and drive the traffic of mutuality.
And there's you and John Russo are going to be my regular video people because you're, among other things, you're the best speakers. Paul, thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. It's been an honor.
All right.
Thanks, boss. Cool.
Okay.
Thanks, Barry.
Thank you.